Well, I finally just finished getting my gear put away from the very chilly 2023 Woodsmans Winter Campout. So I wanted to take the opportunity here to kind of go over some of the gear that we use, some of the lessons that we learned, and just kind of the overall experience, which really turned out to be great for everyone. I was really happy with the turnout, and I think everyone had a great time. And this was a one-night trip that took place from a Saturday morning to a Sunday morning down south in the Charles C. Dean Wilderness, which is a part of Hoosier National Forest. Great place for doing camping like this. Great place for doing backpacking or bushcrafting or whatever you're into. Just a good place to go out and do some classic camping out in the woods. And I'll tell you, with the weather, it definitely earned the title of Winter Campout, okay? It was highs in the low 30s, and then overnight it got to probably about 15 degrees. Saturday was windy and cold, so it wasn't the easiest of, days I've spent out in the woods, that's for sure. But, and that's kind of one takeaway from this, is when you're with a group of people like that, it makes those harder days out in the woods that much more bearable, or, So I'm going to show you a little bit here about how we set up camp. The campsite that we had was great. It had a nice fire pit right in the middle. We basically kept burning the whole time. Like I said, it was pretty cold, so. And then we ended up setting up these 2 tarps as a windbreak, which made a huge difference. Just getting out of the wind makes a huge difference. Now, as far as my setup, I had an oilskin tarp set up as a plow point, and then I did a raised bed and slept under my old down-filled mummy bag, which did keep me pretty warm. And on this trip, actually, this is the first time I tried this, is I boiled water in one of my stainless steel water bottles, wrapped a bandana around that, and put that down in my sleeping bag, which I'd always heard of this, but for some reason I never tried it, and I tried it, and I'll tell you what, that definitely works very well. Another takeaway as far as gear that I found very useful during this trip was this boy's axe, which I have sitting here behind me. Like I said, we had a fire pretty much going the whole time, and it had rained the day before, so a lot of the wood was still damp, and that's where it really comes in handy to be able to split up some firewood. And I'll tell you, when processing firewood, an axe like this with a head that hardly weighs more than a hatchet and overall doesn't really weigh much more, the amount of work you're able to do compared to a hatchet is not even comparable. And this is just a boy's axe from the hardware store down the street. This is nothing special. I did sharpen it and put an edge on it, and I scraped off the polyurethane and gave it a nice boiled linseed oil finish. So overall, this is probably going to go with me on a lot more trips. Another piece of gear that I think everyone enjoyed was I brought my Coleman Model 288 with me that I actually have burning in here right now. These lanterns really put out a lot of light. It was great to have that running all night and kind of have our main area just lit up. It made everything a lot easier when you're cooking food, boiling water, making coffee, all that kind of stuff. And just generally to keep out of the dark. Also, since those lanterns run on gasoline, with it being so cold, it's not really affected like a propane or battery-powered lantern would be. I did take the opportunity as we were taking down camp to go around and let everyone talk about their setups and what they used. We had a really diverse turnout here, from primitive shelters. One group did a debris shelter, and one group slept in a very unique hammock setup. So we'll cut to that. And first we're gonna go to Paul and his wife, Dawn. And Dawn, this was the one that it was her first time being out in the woods. So they're gonna show you guys their setups and kind of talk about how it worked out for them.
Amok equipment.
Yeah.
.com is the only place you can get them.
Okay.
Everybody else is probably a scam.
Okay, gotcha.
Hangs a little differently than a traditional
Right,
hammock.
because you're laying perpendicular to your ridge
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it uses inflatable sleep pad.
Right.
And you don't have to use theirs per se, as long as it's got the vertical baffles in the sleep pad. It needs it for structural rigidity. Yeah, it'll compacted down into the little stuff sacks really nicely. Right. So it's pretty easy to pack up.
How'd it work for you last night?
It's going to be a learning curve, because
yeah.
If you don't keep your butt in the center of the hammock, you tend to slide to one end or the other.
Okay.
Like I said, that's just a learning curve thing, I think, because that was my first night really sleeping in it.
Yeah.
But no, the pad's insulated. The Amok pad's insulated.
Yeah.
So it really kept me pretty warm.
Yeah.
I'm sure without it, I would have been really cold.
Yeah.
No, it's got little pockets and zippers and
Oh
pockets.
yeah, that's really cool.
Keep book in there, and your knife, phone, whatever.
Is this hard to get in and out of?
No. There's different ways to do it. A lot of guys will hold the center up to the center line, so when they go to sit in it,
okay,
your butt's right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I tend to just come to the side and grab onto the.
Just grab on and go.
Because it's like am steel. It's not going to break. That'll hold
wow.
a ton of weight.
Yeah.
And Yeah, just kind of make
I
sure
just
you get
kind
your,
of dove into it.
yeah.
It worked.
Just get your butt up towards the center
Yeah.
as close as you can, and then
Right.
pull yourself up with the ridge line. I don't know that there's technically a right or wrong way to get into it, but
Right.
And in the corner, there's a place where the inflation bag snaps
Oh,
in.
okay.
There's a little fitting on the end. There's a gather air in it.
Oh, I see.
Pumps the
Oh,
pad up.
heck yeah. That's nifty.
And they think of everything, because
That's really cool.
even the sleeping pad has a little patch kit that fits inside the bag, and the tarp has a nice little pocket to keep the stakes in, and
Right.
so it's a pretty nice little setup.
How'd you sleep in yours, Dawn?
Well, I didn't sleep much, but it was comfy. And
Yeah.
I didn't slide to the back, but I kind of like dove into mine
Okay.
where my bottom was in the middle.
Yeah. And you said you didn't slide down?
No,
in
I
yours?
didn't really slide
You kind of
down.
stayed put?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was pretty easy to put up. And my air mattress, you have to actually blow up.
Hers isn't an Amok.
The air mattress
It
itself
is.
is a different brand. I got it. Well, it was cold. I mean, it was, I think
It was cold.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it probably 15 to 20 last night. So
I think I should have done the hot water thing. I'll do that next time. I think we needed to do this to know what we need to do next time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. You learn a lot.
Yeah. Better to do it when there's other people here, and hey,
That's true.
bounce
Yeah.
ideas
Yeah,
off of.
yeah.
That's
and-
true.
I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like we learned a lot of things.
You'll sleep that much better next time you go out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It worked out pretty well for me anyway. Other than like I say, the positioning in there, and that's just a learning curve, I'm sure.
Yeah, so as you can see there, those Amoks are something that I'd never seen before, at least in person. As with any gear, at the end of the day, you're just going to have to get out there and use it to figure out what adjustments you need to make to get it to work for you. And again, I want to shout out Dawn for her just keeping such good spirits. Like I said, her first time really camping out in the woods like that. And we're talking probably about 15 degrees overnight, and wasn't even fazed by it. Stayed in good spirits the whole time. And next year we're going to go, and Colby's going to kind of show you around his setup. Now, Colby had gotten there a day early on Friday, and by the time I got there on Friday, he had some chili waiting on the campfire for me. So that was a pleasant treat and very tasty. You'll see here Colby has a lot of primitive style gear, and this is stuff that he's made himself. Talking about things like knapping flint, using pine pitch to make tools, burning holes in tools, making hand drills, all that kind of stuff. He actually teaches some primitive classes in Indiana, and I'll put a link in the description here if you're interested in checking that stuff out. So we'll go ahead and cut to Colby now, and he'll kind of show you his setup. This is Colby, and he's got more of a primitive kind of setup here. He's kind of got the...
for one person, but it's quite cozy.
Yeah,
This has a floor,
yeah,
side, and then you can stake the end down there, and it kind of closes up.
right.
You know, if you want it to. Weather's nice. It's a pretty good little porch.
Oh yeah, gives you a little awning if it's raining. Really, yeah, that's you got a good amount of room to hang out if it's raining or something.
Yep.
There.
Yeah.
You have fire out in front of it too.
Yeah.
I like this setup a lot.
The only disadvantage I see to it is it's not quite got the headroom, and
Yeah.
the sleeping pad likes to
Right.
move around. But other than that,
Yeah.
it was pretty windy night before last, and I didn't
Right.
feel any of the wind. It knocked all the wind, I do a lot of the primitive stuff.
Yep.
I didn't bring one metal tool, but to do hand drill.
Hand drill. Yep.
That's just
A
one
hand hole drill.
Right.
Yeah.
Stone drills a hole. This is a replica of a Choctaw rabbit stick.
Okay.
Also a maul and
Yeah.
a digging stick.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And then an adze
Yep.
made out of stone. And then my little lightweight little,
Hatchet kind of.
yes,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Cutting stick.
And then my pack is made out of all rawhide, deer rawhide, and sticks I found.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's-
basically made a loop, and then you just weave the rawhide in it wet, and as
Yeah,
it
that's
dries,
nice.
it shrinks up. And then I took,
What'd you do for the strap?
so that is what they call backstrap weaving,
Oh, okay.
and that's just 2 colors of jute twine.
Okay.
And basically, you got 14 strands.
So you weave this?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that package. That's cool, man.
And then it's got rawhide for your loops.
Yep.
And then down here, and you kind of tie it just like you would a Roycraft pack frame. Yep. I try to do everything primitive.
Yeah, and you popped a spark with that hand drill, and a couple of us tried it too, and it's actually easier than you think. Or at least not as hard as I would have thought.
Right.
It's not easy.
And then, of course, if that don't work, I got flint and steel.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is just a Sawyer water filter bottle. I got some gourds drying that I'm gonna make 2 gourd water bottles.
Right.
The good thing about gourd water bottles is it sweats. So in the summertime, it keeps water colder than it does in metal.
Oh, okay.
Keeps it cooler.
Yeah. Nice. One thing I want to mention there is his tarp setup I thought was really neat. It's not something I'd seen very often. It seemed very effective though, and seemed to work out pretty well for him. And so now we're going to cut over to another couple and they'd actually come early Friday as well. Friday night they'd stayed in a tent, which they were testing out for the first time. And then Saturday night, Brandon decided to build a debris shelter to sleep in, which turned out really well. But we'll go ahead and cut to that now and they'll kind of show you around. You slept good?
Slept good.
Annie slept
awful. I'm an old lady that.
But she was warm.
Sleep well on the ground.
But she was warm.
Yeah, she was warm.
I was hot. I was too hot. I took my socks off in the middle of the night. Tried taking my jacket off, but there's not a lot of headroom under there, so.
Oh, I built the bench here. You got the bark top of the bench.
Nice recliner and windshield. Got all our wood over here.
Yep.
Stacked up real nice. Not now, but
Wood. Because did you keep that fire going all night, or you let it burn out?
as soon as I got in, it was so warm and toasty in there. I didn't even bother.
Really?
Didn't have to. Yeah, it was really nice.
That's where you guys slept, under there. And what'd you guys have for sleeping gear?
We had a self-inflatable sleeping pad and 2 sleeping bags on top of that. Had a tarp underneath everything, of course.
Okay.
Moisture.
Well,
Yeah.
we also had a comforter too.
Oh, a comforter on top of the self-inflator.
Yeah.
Individual fleece blankets in our sleeping bags.
And then 1 blanket over the top of all of us.
It's like built down in this ditch. So the saddest part of the day for Brandon is that we have to disassemble the shelter. Because that's the rules of the woods, people. So as you can see, they're nice and cozy in there, had their own little fire pit with kind of a reflector wall built behind it, a little bench to sit on, plenty cozy in there, kept all the wind off, and ultimately did the trick, I would say, especially compared to their tent that they had to use on Friday night. And last, and unfortunately, I didn't have time to get video of them walking through their gear, but you can kind of see here, these 2 friends, Rich and Tony, both had similar military style tents. And I will definitely say, of all the people there, they probably had the best menu. I think they cooked some steak and mushrooms and vegetables wrapped in foil over the fire. They both had really nice setups. You could tell it wasn't their first time around the block doing some winter camping. And I actually took away a couple ideas that I might try just from looking at their setup. And again, that's something I wanted to reiterate, is how good of a time it was just to hang out with some people camping. There's so much to share with each other when it comes to what gear you've used. You know, some person might have a piece of gear that you've been looking at, and to be able to see that piece of gear in person is just invaluable compared to reading about it, you know, all the reviews online. Nothing compares to seeing it in person. So Sunday morning, everyone kind of filtered in towards the main campfire we had here, had their coffee, and then everyone got their 2023 Woodsmans Winter Campout patch, as well as a couple pieces of gear that everyone got for signing up. Thankfully, all the wind had subsided and it was nice and calm, and the sun came out on Sunday, and it was just a nice reward to be able to pack up camp and head out with a little warmth and finally some wind not blowing on us, because that's something we've been dealing with all weekend. Probably expand into maybe a spring, summer, maybe we'll do one for all 4 seasons. I know I definitely enjoyed myself. Everyone else seemed to enjoy themselves. And again, you just can't replace getting out in the woods with some other people and just sharing that experience. So thanks for watching, everyone. Check back in for more campouts coming up, and hopefully we'll see you soon.